Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. Amber is out tonight, so I'm gonna be filling in for her. So call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. And first order of business is a roll call. So Amber, she's out. Gary,
Present.
David,
Here.
I'm here. Elizabeth,
Here.
Patrick Bustos,
Here.
Kelly,
Here.
Patrick Vaughn,
Here.
Chuck,
Here.
and Josephine.
Here.
Cool. Okay, then we'll just keep moving on. Approval of minutes. Did anybody get a chance to look through the minutes that Aaron sent out last week from our May meeting? June, sorry. Anybody want to make a motion to approve? Any changes?
Josh, I just read through that. And my only comment would be, I wonder if we need to document on the motion that was passed last meeting to dedicate up to a certain amount for fountain repairs on the airport fountain. Do we want to put the specific amount in there? It wasn't listed previously.
Okay, Aaron, is that something we could? I know the city has sort of made the change to do less detailed minutes in favor of like just sort of linking to the video. Is that a level of detail we could add in there specifically for that one motion?
Sure, yeah, we can add that in.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron. Any other comments? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I moved, accept the motion.
I'll
Accept the
second.
minutes, sorry.
Okay, Patrick Vaughn moved to, and David seconded the motion. Okay. Any further discussion on the minutes? And all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Okay, then we will keep moving on to disclosures. Does anybody have any disclosures, conflicts of interest, ex parte communications, anything like that that they would like to disclose? Nothing, okay. Then moving on to audience business. Do we have any comments from anybody in the audience who'd like to address the board? Feel free to step up to the podium. Just press that little button on the mic there on the base so it's green. And welcome.
Evening. Do you need like name, address, anything? Okay. Clint Taylor, Indian Paintbrush Architecture. Address is 9704 Vera Lane, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Here to talk about a house at 3136 Thomes. We are applying for applied for a building permit to add a garage. Part of that, we've got to do a little bit of demolition. And so that kicks us to your committee because we're in the 2023 expansion of the Capitol North Historic District. The demo permit got held up in the city's system and didn't get assigned to somebody. So we missed the agenda for this meeting. So we'll be on the agenda next month, but wanted to come before you guys so that we didn't lose any time. We've got everything that you guys need to make it a pretty simple agenda item for you next month. The house was built in 29. You can see the former garage. Didn't need much of a garage in 29. It's been added onto in the back and on the side in 54. That carport was afterwards enclosed to be kind of like a garage. So we kind of got an addition to an addition. The roof is really cobbled up. The two additions have different siding on them. The original garage is full brick. So with the addition, we're wanting to take those two little additions off and expand the garage out to be a modern day 2-car garage. Keep the brick walls on the north and or on the east and the south, and then push that out match the roof best we can. Yeah, so this is from Pershing looking south. You can kind of see how the roof there on the right is kind of cobbled up, and you know, we've got all sorts of roofs there, some flues that are going to go away. So the new roof, we'll do a hip roof on the garage and keep it below the eave of the house, so we're not taking away from the house. If you could swing around on Google to Thomes, to the front of the house on the left there. You know, it's a craftsman house. We want to honor that. That brick chimney that you see there and the glass block's been replaced with windows. That chimney isn't original. Kind of looking at the brick on that, it matches kind of, but it's the scoring's different and it's a slightly different color, and it doesn't have the dark brown band that's on the house itself. So we'll match that brick. So we've only got 2 bricks instead of 3, but match the addition instead of the historic house, and extend that to the right. And then that roof, you know, it's sagging because the roof's added onto it, just added weight. So we'll have to replace the roof, but that kind of carport on the right would go away, and around on the back, and just clean it up. I think it'll really add to the house. And I do have to say, these are older Google Street images before the homeowners bought it. So they've done a lot already of fixing the landscape on it and the fence, and really dressing it up. So now we just want to do the garage and do that. So, but our intent is to preserve the historic house, not take away from it, not block the views of it, keep the same low slope hip roof on the garage, and just complement it as much as possible. So any questions for me or the homeowner?
Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. I was wondering, do we have any like renderings of the
I just
what
did
you're planning to do and afterwards or anything?
on
Just
the
out of
cover, there
curiosity.
should be, the first page should have just kind of some 3D images of what it would look like. That bottom image, you can kind of see like a darker, it doesn't show up real well with the overhang coming around. And then we'll preserve that south brick wall that's original to the garage. And then, you know, just butt up to it with an expansion joint, and then a complementary brick, but it's not an exact match. So you can still tell historic and new.
Charles and Aaron, I just got the letter in the mail today that we'll be talking about this further next month, right? And will you be sending us like a packet in the mail like you've done in the past?
Yep, Chair, through you, we will be sending out a staff report with all of this information next agenda.
Okay. And so there's no action or anything we're doing tonight, correct? No. Okay. Then any questions from other board members? Patrick?
Yeah, I just have a 2 real quick. Does the demolition and the addition of the 2-car garage change the footprint at all? I mean, is it a lot?
We're extending to the north. Sorry, I turned it off so we wouldn't get feedback. We're extending to the north. You know, taking the carport off that I think was 12 feet, and we're doing a garage that's going to be 18, 19 feet. So we're pushing closer towards Pershing, but we're keeping that roof line down low, and you know, it's got fence all the way around. So I think it's, you know, it's going to be pretty well hidden, and not, you know, we're certainly not sticking out closer towards Pershing than the adjacent homes or anything there.
And do you know if the city allows that footprint to extend a certain length, or are you familiar with that?
I've been talking to Aaron about that, and doing all the stuff we need on that on the building permit side.
And the second question I have is on the picture, there's that white, I don't know if I think it's a rolling fence. That will be the front of the 2-car garage, correct? From the street? From the front?
Go back to that. Yeah, that would be kind of your view coming from Thomes there. That you would see the garage there. And we're trying to keep it off to the side from the house. and not block the gable ends of the house there.
Yeah, that right there, that white
Yeah, so that would go away, and then we would have the garage door there.
garage door, and that garage will probably end up like extending out this direction
Yeah,
towards,
yeah.
towards, is that that's Pershing or Thome?
Yeah, Pershing.
Pershing,
The
okay,
view is from Thomes.
okay.
And then they were doing the kind of the carriage style garage doors, kind of a wood grain or something, so it's not all that white there.
Okay. And then you mentioned the chimney. You're gonna match, you're not taking it down, are you?
No,
Okay,
we'll leave that, but that brick is a different brick than what the house is. The scratch is a little narrower and it's deeper, and the color's a little off. So we can match that brick. So then we'll match the addition instead of the historic house, so that you can still tell historic from addition.
and I keep asking questions, I only had two. You had talked about all the different sidings. There were like several. And,
Yeah.
and will that kind of be what you're thinking of, trying to make it more uniform, or, the addition, I understand, will be different, right?
Right. Well, so in that picture, kind of that shed roof on the left, I think has aluminum siding on that, or is that the wood siding? One's got aluminum siding, and then the other addition has a wood siding. Neither of them really match the house. We'll take that off, and then the entire garage will be full height brick. Everything will match and kind of keep with the historic theme of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Any other questions from any other board members? Elizabeth?
You said that some, I won't say alterations have already been made, but in terms of landscaping, because looking at the house from Pershing, it looks like the view will be a bit different. So is there kind of landscaping going up? What?
Just like in there, you see all those weeds and the grass, they've got sod in there, clean that up. Just got a lot more grass there and making the yard a lot nicer.
Yeah, it just seems the view from Pershing and Thomes will be a bit different.
From Pershing, it'll pretty much be the same, because that fence will still be there. We'll just be a little closer to the fence, and the roof will be a little closer. From Thomes, we're just taking some fence out and that carport, and then stretching that roof out a bit more.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more in terms of the feeling of the property itself, but fortunately that's my drive home tonight, so I can swing by and see what it looks like.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming tonight, and I think we'll look forward to talking with you again a month from now at the next board meeting. Charles, is there, Aaron, anything else we should cover now?
And chair, members of the board, just wanted to note that what you all will be reviewing technically is the demolition of the historic element of the structure. And the structure is unique in that it has two different elements. You have the original structure, which dates back to the early 1900s, and then the 1954 addition. So that's what you're looking at. And then number one is appropriate for demolition. And then the reconstruction, it can, and the addition, that is something we can look at, but it's not the specific application. So when you're trying to link this all together, you can look at the demolition and what the replacement value is essentially. And by value, I mean aesthetic value and appropriateness to the original structure.
Thanks, Charles. And yeah, hopefully you can sort of walk us through that next month further as well. So, okay. Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Any other audience business? Is there anybody online, Aaron?
No, there's not.
Okay. Then we will move to comments and report from our city council representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I missed the last couple of meetings. Once I was at the announcement for the PBR headquarters coming here in the Hall of Fame. And then I was in Mexico on vacation in June. So sorry I missed those ones. But it's been pretty exciting and hectic at the council over the past couple months, and a lot of great things. You know, we had our recognition of the committee for the 250th celebration, and I think that one really went off with a lot of 4th of July glory. I know the mayor was worried that, there wouldn't be very many people come to the parade, and people were 15 deep all through that route. It was one of the largest parades I've ever been a part of. We opened the Belvoir Ranch to the public. 13 miles of trails are now available. I talked a little bit about that to some of your colleagues when I first got here. That when someone made a comment that we don't cherish our Western heritage anymore, I said, name another city that owns a ranch. So I don't know if there is. Maybe Charles knows, but Darby has a ranch. I guess the next town over has one. It's not as big as ours, though, is it? Okay. We got a big ranch. And then the historic train cars were brought down to the depot. And also the depot has a new restaurant, a rail yard. I went in there the other day. It's a unique menu. They have a $75 cheeseburger in there called the train wreck. I don't know if that guy that used to do Man vs. Food will come here for that. Maybe. They're unveiling the galloping horse above the Wrangler. And do you know what time that is tomorrow? It's before Fridays on the Plaza, 5:30, something like that.
Do you not know when? I'm just pretending I don't know about it. It's a non-conforming sign.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's not historic preservation then. Oh,
No, I don't know what time. In Chair 3, I don't know what time that is, but that's being organized by Pete Laybourne, and I can reach out to him real quick and see if we can get some information from him.
okay. Then the Morning Star Indian Village, its grand opening is Friday at 10:30. Just driving by, you can tell it's an amazing addition to Frontier Park. They moved some of their bronze statues around, and they moved some of the parking lot is going to be very different this year. The addition of Chute 9 also looks amazing. Then going back to our meeting that ended this morning at 1:41 in the morning, and that agenda. And if you ever heard of a little company named Microsoft? Well, anyways, they bought some land from the Lummis Ranch, 3,500 acres. 500 of it will remain agriculture, will be a barrier between the Sweetgrass subdivision and the ridge that is to the south of that. There'll be a conservation easement up there. That's what I told some of the residents. That's probably the luckiest subdivision in Cheyenne, because there's not going to be any development now behind you. There could have been a wind farm up there on that ridge. It could have been a solar chemical plant. What else did we turn down? Meat processing plant. So we don't just automatically take every company that looks to come to Cheyenne. Anyways, I think it's a real big deal for Cheyenne to have the opportunity now to have these type of jobs in our community. And I talked to one guy on our break, and I said, would you rather the data centers leave Wyoming or your children? And I know that'd be an easy answer for me. So when we went to tour it, it was a lot different than what my vision was before I went in. I figured it'd be noisy and hot, bright, and it's just a big brick building with lots of security and a lot of security, probably more than Fort Knox. But the fears, you know, I talked to the people that work there, I said, why are you not afraid of the health effects from a data center, and people that live a mile away are? And he said, it's just fear. It, it's like wildfire, I guess. It spreads, and they don't understand because they're not there and they're not working in it. But a lot of the workers we've talked to said it's changed their lives. And I think as legislators, counselors, that's our job, is to make life better for our constituents. And I know there's two sides to that issue, but for the council on annexation, we look at the criteria that's set forth by the legislature, and if the 5 criterias meet the annexation, then it says we shall annex. The other thing is a lot of the tax incentives that the state legislatures implemented is really what I think is added to the data center boom in Cheyenne. So they have a sales and use tax exemption, so they get that on the servers, processors, a low sales tax and a low property tax, no state income tax, and no corporate tax. So those 5 things are what corporations like Microsoft look at when they're looking to expand to a community or a state. And in my opinion, I'm happy they chose Cheyenne. So in 10 years, maybe the naysayers will look at it different. So is there any other questions about annexation or us being up for till 1:41 in the morning?
Thanks, Representative Esquivel. You guys have been busy. Any questions from the board on any of?
And I know we've been
updates?
really busy. There's probably a few things I missed.
I have a comment for Mr. Esquivel.
Sir,
I made a field trip last week to the Belvoir Ranch, and I was the first one in at 8:30, so hiked several of the trails, and just want to thank you and your group for making that happen. Just the whole layout, the way the trails were marked, the parking area, everything's set up to go. And so I was just very impressed at the work that was done out there. And I could kind of see where there's some further expansion will take place through, there's a covered picnic area and so forth. So just want to thank you for that.
yeah, the guy that helped us with that, Tim Thibodeau, was it Tim? Tom Thibodeau. He helped with the Youth Conservation Corps.
Todd.
Todd, thank you. And doing the Kurt Gowdy State Park trail system over there too. And my first year in the legislature, I went over there and spent the night with the kids and helped build those trails. It's hard work, and I couldn't do it now. So a lot younger back then, but it's. I told my wife we need to go get her a mountain bike. I have one, but hopefully we'll get out there and be able to enjoy it too. And then again, we also did a commemorative appreciations for Councilman Scott Roybal. That was his passion. And there's a brick or big rock out there that has a bronze plaque in it to recognize Scott. Close friend of mine too.
Any other questions or comments for Representative Escobar? Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to comments from the planning and development folks.
Chair, members of the board, Charles Bloom, Planning Development Director. I just wanted to note one thing real quick that kind of is related to the data center stuff. One of the items, the reasons we like to see the data centers are we get a heck of a lot of property tax revenue from these facilities. In 2012, our assessed value of all of the square footage of buildings and structures that we had in the city of Cheyenne, that was 511,900,000 approximately. So that's, just a $500 million roughly. In 2018, that number had increased to about $660 million. Just in 2025, that number has surpassed $1 billion. So it's $1,093,000,000 in valuation. So that's the assessed value of all the properties that we base our 8 mil collection off of for our general fund. How does that translate into additional revenue for the city? Well, that dollar amount that we received in 2012 was just over $4 million that would go to our general fund to support items like preservation initiatives, parks and recreation, planning, the mayor's office, the council, all of that type of stuff. So it was $4 million back in 2012. Now we're sitting at 8.7 million. So we've over doubled that dollar amount just based on the investment community, which is not just data centers, but it's also new apartments, new housing, those items. So we're continuing to see that grow. And we are on the edge of possibly having possibly another $1 billion of investment that's just sitting here knocking on our doorstep. So that's a lot of additional funding that could be coming our way with this development. And with the data center discussion, that's just a piece of the puzzle. We do receive sales tax revenue off the electricity that's sold. We have revenue through our franchise agreement and such, which that increases our general fund as well. I believe in 2018, our general fund was sitting right around $55 million. And that's your non-enterprise items, like not trash, not water, none of that stuff. Now we're sitting at right around $80 million. So we've really seen an increase in general fund revenue, which can pay for a lot of these quality of life improvements and maintenance of our roads and removal of potholes and such, which seem to be the trending issues when elections come up. Especially mayoral elections, it's all about potholes. So that's just a little bit of information on how we've changed and how we have our own different type of coal that's knocking on our door, which could lead to development in the area, but we have to be responsive. And we have to plan and do everything smartly. Can't just rubber stamp everything. Something that we are doing is we are continuing forward with our comprehensive plan update. We had a selection committee that was put together. That selection committee included a member of the Planning Commission, Tony Laird, Jeff White, a council representative from Ward 1. We also had Steve Bourne, he's a local developer. We had Justin Arnold from the County Planning Office, a handful of planners in the office, including Aaron, myself, Connor White, and Seth Lloyd, but he was on vacation, so we didn't get a select. And then we had engineering representative and also representative from the MPO. Well, we had narrowed down what turned out to be 8 qualified consultants, and we have made a selection and we're entering into contract negotiations. The selected firm that we're negotiating contracts with is Household Levine. They're a Chicago-based firm that's done a lot of national comprehensive plans. They're going to tackle some of the top items and issues here in the community, like data centers, but they'll also be tasked with looking at principles that we aspire to regarding historic preservation. So as we move forward with putting together a steering committee, I would really appreciate if there's anyone that has some additional time that would like to wear historic preservation hat on that steering committee, or even some type of hat in between that's historic preservation and maybe more downtown design standards or urban design standards type of hat to really look at how we want to shape our community, because what we're planning for and designing now, that all has the potential to become a historic building in the future. We're anticipating to have that professional services agreement approved on August 24th and ready to sort of kick it off in early September. Right now, it's envisioned to be an 18-month process. There may be some pressures for us to look at expediting that process. We'll just see how quickly that could be. So stay tuned. Keep that in your hip pocket as an opportunity for additional participation. Other items we have in our department is we are continuing to be tremendously busy with different items. Lots of challenging public hearings, challenging developments that are going through the public process that are keeping us up all hours of the night, which is good. It's entertaining. I'm never a dull day in the planning and development office. I'm looking for the governing body. It looks like we may have some reprieve from longer meetings for just a couple of meetings before it just revs right up again. So, but there are some other large developments that aren't just data center related. There's true industrial development that's proposed that's coming down the pike. There's additional multifamily development that's going forward. And one item that the governing body approved last night is kind of the second part of a partnership with an LLC. It's a multifamily development group that's constructing essentially workforce housing at the corner of Carlson and Converse. This is the northwest corner of that area. If you've driven that area, you've noticed that there's a large area of land north of the existing apartment complexes that has been graded and has earth moving on it. This is a partnership between the city and that developer to create housing that is envisioned to be at a point that 60% of AMI for income. AMI is the area median income. So what is 60% AMI? These are some of your people that are entry-level positions in the school district, you know, your teachers, some of your folks that are at hospitals and stuff. It's referred to as affordable housing, you know, at the national level, but affordable housing unfortunately has taken on a bad taste, and everyone just thinks affordable housing means bad housing, but it's housing that all of us probably have needed at some time in our life. And I like to remind everyone that even though apartments are being built, just because it's an apartment complex doesn't make them a bad person. I mean, I guess I kicked all my bad habits when I moved out of my apartments, right? So we've had staff members that have been in apartments as well. So that's a exciting development that's moving forward. Also in our department, we continue to navigate what is envisioned as we need to take care of this now type of scenarios. One of those is continuing to move forward with what we're calling our farm to bus ordinance bundle. This is a group of everything related to urban gardening, urban farming, farm stands, sales from pickup trucks and trailers and food stands. That was first discussed in conjunction with our last and final county pocket annexation that kind of ran across a bump and got postponed until November. We are in the final stages of assembling a variety of pieces of that puzzle internally and looking to get that out for public comment. It's going to revolve around everything from food sales to gardening at your house and how it relates to state statute, and also includes provisions for how livestock and grazing can occur on larger acreages that may not be zoned agricultural, but may be a holding zone for future large-scale development or leasing opportunities for grazing on some of these underutilized industrial properties that might be floodplains or reservoir areas and stuff like that. So that's exciting. Also, where we continue to move forward with discussion on trying to navigate what, if any, changes may be necessary regarding large caliber industrial development like data centers and other ones, whether we look at community benefit agreements, annexation agreements, and those types of items as they come in. It's been discussed a lot at the governing body level. There have been internal discussions as to how we can handle that and how we can handle it for future developments at the time of site plan instead of having it done necessarily at annexation. So another item that is kind of a hot topic at the city level is our engineering department is working on a redesign of the Yellowstone and Dell Range intersection. This is the one essentially at the end of Dell Range, at the end of the runway where you can go straight and you can get into the golf course, or you can turn left and follow the road and go around the golf course to get to I-25. There's a proposal to redo that intersection to prioritize turning movements that might link the southern extension that goes towards Central to link it more as a thoroughfare to Dell Range as it heads towards the shopping center, and maybe have a flip where you have to turn to get onto Yellowstone. There's some discussion on how that relates to the current bicycle network, as that's one of our original Cheyenne bikeways, and seeing if that can be preserved, because we don't want to take steps backwards in active transportation. So that's not a good way forward as active transportation continues to skyrocket, especially use in the city. As you might notice, a lot more bikes and alternative active transportation modes clogging our greenways, sidewalks, and roadways. In addition, we have an intern in our office. He is evaluating the current bicycle route that is on 22nd Street, which does traverse several of our historic districts. Right now, it is haphazardly signed from 2012 roughly, with a couple of, this is a bike route sign between Pioneer and Logan. You might see that on that street. He's working in conjunction with our Active Transportation Advisory Committee, which meets on the third Monday of the month, to look at what it would take to formalize that into what would be a MUTCD and NACDO. Those are the acronyms for transportation compliant bicycle way. That would be identifying signage that would note on-street bike lanes. That would also clearly mark them throughout the corridor, and possibly introduce those fun bicycle arrow symbols that designate shared lanes for sharrows. So that would be pretty cool in helping formalize a non heavy traffic roadway, vehicular wise, to highlight that for bicycle tourism or bicycle commuting or just bicycle riding, because that is going through one of the heart of some of our historic districts. And if you ever take a chance to bike or walk down that street, you'll notice that the environment changes throughout, and it actually has some pretty good history and character in that area. Other than that, Aaron, am I missing anything big on here? We have been working on the landscape ordinance, some revisions to our landscape code with Councilmember Rennie for way too long. I want to say about 2 years, it seems like. We've been walking through this with a couple of breaks here and there. We've been trying to work on as time allows. We're anticipating to have a final landscaping ordinance draft available for public comment, and possibly just moving straight towards adoption in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to move forward with that. That should address some of the shortfalls of our current landscaping. It also tries to make it a little bit easier to understand. And I believe it's addressing some of our more problematic provisions we've seen regarding like outdoor storage areas, which have been challenging to administer, and also just aligning with some best practices, and specifically allowing for water-wise landscaping. And the final thing is, I don't know if I mentioned this, recently we approved amendments to our development code regarding what's commonly known as historic horse racing. That was approved at a recent meeting. We just updated our development code that now reflects all those changes. Essentially, what it has created are receiving zones. They're called overlay districts, where we're encouraging those new uses to occur. One of those areas is the High Plains interchange on South I-25 by the Welcome Center, and there's an existing facility there. 3 other areas include West Lincoln Way within the city limits, This is essentially from Crow Creek to the west. It's our properties adjacent, so it's more of a regional anchor to try to attract people from out of town. And then two other areas in the community are 15th Street corridor and the Reed rail corridor, where they would be allowed in that area. With Reed Rail, it would be set up in a way that they would have to be adjacent to the corridor, and they would have to take a principal access, like pedestrian access, off of the corridor, unless it was not possible. So for example, if one of the properties was adjacent to the rail corridor and they couldn't access it because there's a service road there, they could then go off the street. And the final thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, is the 15th Street rail exhibit had 3 rail cars that were installed on Monday. It was last Monday, I believe, is when they were installed. That is phase 1 of that. So feel free to go check it out. Right now, you can still check it out, and you can check it out as close as you want because the fences have not been installed. I'm not condoning anything. I did hear that it's a little bit of a free for all over there, and some people may have been able to go into some of those cars. So I'm not saying you should, just saying that that's I've heard, but you can get a good look at those. There's a video that the DDA has put together as well that documents the move and how they unloaded them and put them together. It's actually quite an exciting project, and there's a lot of work that was put into it. And that's an economic development administration project. So that has about 10 years of reporting that our finance department is going to have to do in regard to identifying how that resulted in job creation for new businesses that would be attracted to the downtown area. It's not a simple relocation. It would be new businesses or expansion of additional employees that would have occurred because of that item. So that's all the updates that I have.
Thanks, Charles. That's a lot. Yeah, you guys got a lot going on. I have a couple follow-up questions. You're talking about the master planning process and how you're looking to have some sort of historic preservation representative involved in that. Could you let me know if I sort of am understanding this right, that you'll put together a committee as soon as you get the sort of the contract with the consultant finalized and things going, and you're interested in maybe somebody from the board serving on that committee to sort of speak for historic preservation through that process. Is that right?
Chair, through the members of the board, yes. And it'd be regarding historic preservation and also an urban design type of element.
Yeah, I think that would be really important for somebody on the board to be involved in that. So I don't know if there's any interest from anybody on the board right away, but if there is, yeah, I would encourage you to speak up and maybe, figure out how to get involved in that. Do you think that'll start in the next couple months?
Chair, through the members of the board, as this definition of what the process looks like evolves, I will make sure we get that information out to you. Right now, the consultants are at a ESRI, which is a GIS user conference, graphic information systems. So we're planning on getting the scope finalized by the 31st of this month. And then during that scope refinement, we will have identified how many stakeholder meetings and steering committee meetings there will be. So we'll get that done. They will primarily be on line, we believe. They'll be on like a Teams style call. That's how I believe the most effective use of our budget and time would be. But there will be some elements that will be in person. We just don't have those pinpointed yet.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. If you could just keep us updated on that, it would be great to have somebody there. This is maybe a bigger question than we want to get into, but you're talking about the community benefit agreements with industry and new development coming in. And I know there's been discussions about whether, levels of appropriateness for that type of thing. But I wonder if there's been any conversations around how we could tie in historic preservation to that type of community benefit agreements with industry. Like, I don't know.
Chair, through to the board, I think that's a great idea. And also I would like to note that even if someone is on the steering committee with a historic preservation hat on or urban form type of hat on, it doesn't restrict them from talking about other policies like the land use plan, any other types of things that may be there. I'm not going to mandate that anyone just say, this is your lane, you have to stay in it. You're there because that's the lane you can travel in, but you're welcome to add a person, hop in that carpool lane. But you bring up a really good point. I do know that I think WMETA has our community action grants. I think Microsoft has some other grants as well. I believe this, after talking with some of those representatives, I believe that seeking grants from them is something that's possible, but this community benefit agreement type of piece, I think we could explore how we can work historic preservation in there. There are some limits that our attorney is looking at as to where we can balance that.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be really beneficial for historic preservation if you want to keep looking into that. I have one more comment and then I'll go over here to Gary, but not related to anything you've mentioned, but I'm just curious what's going on with the Hines these days, because you sort of talked about it a few months ago and sort of talked about maybe sharing some more information with us or putting together a tour or something. And I'm just curious if there's where things are at with that project.
We don't know. No, we haven't heard anything from the Hines. I will, we can reach out to the owner's rep and get a tour scheduled. That slipped my mind.
Cool, thanks. Gary.
Well, I'm all for growth and making Cheyenne bigger, but what came to mind was, as we sit here at this board, our main focus should be historic preservation. And I'm going to call up ordinance I saw put together in Deadwood that after they put gambling together, they made an ordinance to put aside, and it was a little bit, I mean, it was 1/10 of 1% goes to historic preservation. That was their budget. With that, they have orchestrated a museum with over 3 million pieces of artifact. Now, sometimes that's just a piece of barbed wire they dug out 16 feet from where Wild Bill Hickok was shot. But they've got money and they're doing good with it, as opposed to what we sit with here. And I'm just talking about my last 12 years of experience. Sometimes I can't even get a plaque for a historic preservation award because somebody's so damn tight with the money. If the money's out there, we ought to have a percentage of it given to this board to manage, because I'm telling you, and most of you should know this, it's not easy to generate money. We've kind of come into a little bit of a windfall with some things we do, but before that, we couldn't buy paper. And now we've got some money, but I know how city government works. You're going to spend every penny we give you, or you collect from revenue. And then this group has to fight back to get it. I mean, look at the pump house. We've talked about that for 4 years. There's no funding. I guess it's a big order, but it'd be nice if we could take the gambling money from a percentage of the gambling money from the horse tracks, call it what you want. It's a gambling casino. You've got this big windfall now in the data centers, big taxes. A percentage of that should go to the historic preservation of Cheyenne, Wyoming, because if it doesn't, it's not going to be here. And you're going to be sitting here on a board in 10 years going, geez, we need another $85 to go buy a sign to put up over at the depot, and 6 councilmen don't want to give it to us. It'd be really nice if somebody could work, and I know it's a big job and I don't even know if you could get it through, but it would be great if a certain percentage of that money went to historic preservation. And I think the public would probably support that, even the people that don't support it. So just a thought to put in your mind, but it's an opportunity, and once you miss it, it's over. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Patrick?
I have a a question for Charles. Charles, you mentioned landscaping guidelines. One of the things that kind of comes to my mind is in terms of landscaping, I don't know what the guidelines say now, but is there any contemplation of looking at landscaping from historic preservation standpoint? One of the things, and I don't know if in the landscaping guidelines, there's any notion of fences and, you know, how fences, I don't know if they're considered part of landscaping or part of building, and how fences, I've been in some really interesting discussions about fence height and fence width and materials on fences, but they do have a real impact on historic preservation, especially streetscape. That's really important in terms of if be able to look down the street and see the streetscape as opposed to fences that kind of obscure that feeling in the streetscape. So it may be a down in the weeds kind of question, Charles, but I've seen it before in a negative way. But I'm wondering if that's a consideration in terms of the landscaping guidelines. Just a question.
Chair, members of the board, to board member Bustos, that's a really good comment. And we do have regulations regarding fences, and we did do an amendment more recently. It was about, I want to say it was about 3 to 4 years ago. The quick answer is fencing is its own standalone section, not included in landscaping. However, in some aspects of larger commercial or large residential development, there are opportunities to provide ornamental or decorative fences that can substitute like trees and bushes and stuff like that. Those you're going to find in a lot of your newer developments and anything that could be a large redevelopment. I believe when the VOA did their demolition and rebuild, I think they had an alternative. Did they put in is there a decorative fence in a portion of that? I think there was no. Okay, I thought there was possibly a discussion about using that as an alternative at one time. But regarding fencing, our regulations are fairly simple, which restrict it to 4 feet in the front yards. And there's a certain material standards, which are like wood, painted wood, wood. There's like iron, those types of fences. But there are prohibitions on some of your non-standard materials. We don't have a standard that creates uniformity. I oftentimes point to staff a little OCD concern with fencing just looking up here on 22nd Street. If you look between O'Neill and Thomes, if you ever look at that whole block there, everybody has a fence in their front yard and everybody's fence is different, but they're all 4 feet tall. You have chain link, you have wood pickets, you have white vinyl, you have white pickets, you have, everything's different. But that's kind of the way that our fencing ordinance has been, is that everyone can choose their own. From a preservation standpoint, the only area where we're able to review a fence and the design is in the governor's mansion overlay, which is that capital, the overlay district where we have, I thought that would have been our neighborhood resident by chance, where we have that property that the owner may be here for discussion today or may not. But those are ones where any structure or even a fence can be reviewed for appropriateness with the neighborhood. But those are items that can be goals and items we can look at with preserving our heritage and such in the comprehensive plan.
Would it be advisable, Charles, or even feasible to in the landscape guidelines to at least for maybe like North Capitol, historic district, maybe the South Side Historic District, make a recommendation that we at least consider historic, and not mandate anything. I that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for maybe some, at least consideration in terms of when looking at landscaping to at least give some credence to like historic preservation and it's I'm trying to explain what a streetscape and a community feels like, and it's hard to put that into words, Charles. And I guess that's what I'm looking for is there any way to say, in the landscape guidelines, at least consider, streetscape and community feel. And maybe it's not even feasible, but that's where I feel like, we lose the character, I think, a lot of in neighborhoods if we don't at least consider the historical context and landscape of the community.
Chair, through you to Commissioner or Board Member Bustos, I completely understand your concern, and my OCD example is a great example of things. Two things. Number one, our fencing standards regarding materials are for things that require the permits and such like that. The standards, a lot of them are more reflective toward, sorry, I'm going to back up. Our landscaping standards generally don't apply to single family developments. The fencing standards do, but a lot of times fencing enforcement and guidance is only provided if someone is kind enough to inquire about a fencing standard. And then enforcement occurs if a neighbor is unhappy enough to complain about their neighbor. We get lots of fencing comments. So it would be challenging, I think, for us to put in recommendations in ordinance. I think a more proactive approach that might be better would be some type of informational brochure or something that we could have on our website that could be additional info with our fencing guidelines saying, if you're in a historic district, here are some things that you should consider. Here's some takeaways. And it's not just how does it relate to a property aesthetically. We also try to advise people on fencing and commercial standards because we look at safety and stuff. For example, we want to try to prevent large fences from being put up adjacent to alleys. I look at that car dealership on Ames and Lincoln Way right by the pump house. They wanted to put up a large fence and we said no, because sometimes when you put up a large fence in certain areas, you create avenues for bad activity to occur. So that could be something that we could look at as a board, maybe as a side committee, where there could be a best practices manual put together. I could reach out to the University of Colorado, which every year they offer us essentially a graduate student that can put together specific projects, and that might be something that would be right up one of their alleys, because historic preservation is a pretty key element in the architecture and planning program at the University of Colorado, Denver.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for planning department? Okay, we're going to move on then to strategic goals report. First up is National Register of Historic Places. Elizabeth, do you have update on how your two projects are going?
Yes, it is crunch time because we got 2 months essentially to get these done. So I don't have very long updates, but it's been a lot of work going on, at least. For the African American context study, been looking at census records, comparing them back to Sanborn maps and Polk directories as well, to find obviously not just residences of folks in town, but also associated businesses and things like that too. One thing that I'm running into is that in the contract, there's no date of significance for it. So my intent was to go back 50 years, so 76. One thing that's tricky with that is that census records cannot be released. There's a 72-year restriction. So that would be the 1950s. There are some local contacts that I can speak to as well, but I don't know if that's a concern of privacy that we want to have for the board. Obviously, from a preservation standpoint, 50 years is golden. But that is something to consider as well. And like I said, there is no actual set date of how far forward we wanted to go with that. So I don't know if anybody has thoughts, ideas on that, if I do the best I can, or if people feel really strongly about the date.
I mean, I don't know. My sense is that you're the contractor and we're paying you for your expertise in figuring out the best way to handle these situations. So I think, like, whatever you feel like is the most appropriate way to handle that in terms of the period of significance. And maybe it's, I don't know.
I mean, is there any way like you could reach out to the SHPO and the state SHPO or someone else who I'm sure somebody else is running into this problem? Maybe I don't know, another city, something.
Yeah, I know they've done a statewide similar context study as well. So yeah, I guess I should have just referred that to see what they did too. But I also want to be respectful of folks too who might want that kind of privacy. So yeah, like I said, it wasn't mentioned in the contract, so I just wanted to double check to see if there was intent of period of significance for that. So I will move forward as I see fit, unless somebody.
We've never had a conversation as a board about the period of significance.
Cool. So that's that guy. And then the other one obviously is the terminal. I've reached out to the city public records office due to scheduling with the 4th, and I'm going out of town and they were going out of town, what have you. Hopefully I'm getting in there by the end of this month to start going through the historic records that the city has as well. I've also contacted the state library and the county library to get in touch, but I haven't heard back from either of them. So I can also start poking people that know through other contacts to get in there as well. So that's that.
Charles, did you have a comment?
Chair, through you to board member DeGrenier. Correct. DeGrenier, just making sure I pronounced it correctly. Who was your contact regarding the historic records? Was it someone in building or was it the clerk's office? If you don't recall, that's fine. A microphone.
I think it was the clerk.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Correct way to go. That's
That
who I've
should-
been chatting with.
work, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Elizabeth, for the update. Sounds like you've still got a ways to go before the next couple of months, but yeah, reach out if you need anything. Okay, moving along, the strategic goals report, oral histories project. I again this month don't have any updates. Was on vacation, and before that, very busy with the 250th events for work. So I don't have any updates on this unless Patrick Bustos does.
I have just a slight update. I was out at the police department community night out, and I ran into a gentleman with the Wyoming Independent Citizen Coalition, Palmer Trujillo, and he's agreed that he's real interested in working with us on that particular project. So it was just fortuitous that we were at the same event and we kind of hooked up, and so he's real interested in assisting us with this particular
Got a
project
question.
with context.
Great. Gary?
Just out of curiosity, how many oral histories has the board completed?
5. And we welcome all the help we can get from anybody else who wants to do oral histories with us. Okay, moving on, Historic Preservation Month, that was in May. The note on here, the Du Bois Award has reopened to July 31st. Aaron, do you know, have we got any submissions at all?
Oh, last time I checked with Matt Murphy, we hadn't had any, but it's been a while, so I'll need to check with him again.
Okay.
And Chair, I mentioned at the last meeting that I thought I had known someone who had done some renovations to a home that were historically appropriate. I reached out to that person and they said they apologized that they hadn't used exact materials on it, so it wouldn't be qualifying after further discussion. And that person I don't want to identify. They were embarrassed, but they said, I know we couldn't afford it.
Yeah, so it's open through July 31st. So I feel like at the next board meeting, hopefully maybe you'll have a couple that have been submitted to present to us. I feel like we should probably also be, as a board, over the next month thinking about any nominations that we want to make in the case that we don't get any submissions. So I would propose that everybody think about that and come to the next board meeting with any ideas if you have any. Josephine?
Well, I think we should have at least one, because I had someone reach out to me as a former recipient about how it works, about one of my neighbors. And so I kind of walked them through filling that out. So I think they should have that. So there's at least one.
Great. Nice. Okay. So hopefully we have at least one, and hopefully board members can think about some possibilities over the next month as well. I don't know who is the chair of the Historic Preservation Month committee. Does anybody know? Are there any other updates from this committee? It might be Amber who's out. Yeah. Okay. Then we will move to Education of the Public and Historic Preservation / Marketing Committee.
Yeah, one thing I have is kind of covers ornaments. Gary and I are going to, we've got a table set up for this aviation thing that's coming up at the airport so we can sell ornaments again. But in the past, we had a pamphlet that we would hand out, and that I thought we should redo that, but Amber said not on her watch. So is there any way we can get like a QR code thing that says if you're interested in what's worth preserving in Cheyenne, have that thing on there so they can click on it to get to our website so that we can, you know, get people that are going by, because there's going to be quite a few people there. And if we get a few hits or whatever, we can, but I don't know any other way to get people to our websites other, you know, just having them randomly hit our web, Facebook or whatever pages, and doesn't seem to be working super great. But I don't know how those QR code things work, but it'd be nice to have something we could stick up there.
So you want like a half page flyer or something with a QR code?
Well,
that
I'd,
directs
I'd
people
like to have
our
just,
website?
I'd like to kind of have just a piece of cardboard kind of that we could stick up on the desk there so that they can click on it when they're walking by.
Okay. Does anybody know about QR codes or how to do that? Any?
Let me back up. What's the problem with printing a page beside Amber doesn't like it?
Well, at the planning thing, I brought it up and she said no, and nobody else would have went with it. So I got shut down. So, and the next thing I have, I ran into Christine Bromer, who is the St. Mary's teacher that was doing the 3rd grade class for the historic buildings. And she has gotten a better offer from Classic Academy and will no longer be teaching over there, but she's going to be in 5th grade at Classical Academy. So that won't be one of her topics there. So I'm going to have to get with the St. Mary's. She said she left all of her teaching materials there at St. Mary's. So if the new teacher wants to teach it, she's got the thing already set up, but it's going to be up to the new teacher. But she said she would also help me with talking with Classical Academy to seeing if they could do something for their third grade class there as part of it, since she's familiar with it and going to be teaching over there. So, and that's all for now.
Elizabeth, do you have any comments about like the social media or anything?
Yeah, so I know I was approved to spend some money to boost the award online. So I'll do that as well. Historic wise, when I was checking my stuff, there's nothing too exciting happening. But of course, Cheyenne was founded on August 7th. So I will go ahead and post something for that. There also was the UP survey at the end of this month too. What was that, 1867? So I'll put some stuff up for that. And I know Railroad goes over very well. So we'll do that. There's also possibility to put up some CFD images too of downtown showing off some of the historic buildings as well. So I will get all of that scheduled. Unless I'm missing anything that anybody else wants.
I found the Corps of Engineers reports on the flooding in Cheyenne, but I forgot, left it at home. But it seems it was the 1896 flood wasn't too big a deal because it's like about 4 lines. But there was another one, I think in 1906, then it's almost 2 entire pages because apparently the town had built up a lot more over those 10 years or so. So, but the other interesting thing is they have the dates of all the big flood events on both Dry Creek and Crow Creek. So you can go back to the, I don't know how much has been digitized of the newspaper articles, how, but if with those dates, it makes it easier to find the, or cross-reference to the actual information. So, but I will get those to you. I just kind of been sitting in the same spot for the last month. So. Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth. All the pictures you've been posting over the last couple of months, I feel like they get a lot of traction on social media. It seems like people like that. So, ornaments, Gary.
Well, there's a lot going on with ornaments, and I want to make it brief because I don't want you to run a meeting into 1:30 in the morning like city council. I have ordered and they're on the way, and that would be the 2 ornaments. I have one of the Capitol I redid for the Capitol Museum exclusively to sell. I've also done the train depot, and I have those, but I've got to print the brochure for inside, and I'm going to use those strictly down at the depot. The reason I'm doing that is because my ornament that I'm selling to everybody is not going to appeal to the tourist in my mind. They like capitals and trains, and the new ornament is finished. It's in production. It is of the 2 water towers north of town. And I have contacted the guy that's painting it. He's going to give me a little bit of paint, which costs $470 a gallon. I'm going to put a daub of that paint on the back of each one of those ornaments. And I'm only ordering 600 of them this year because the governor usually buys 150 from me, and I'm doing an exclusive with them. So I guess my question would be to planning, are you going to sell them? The ones I don't sell, are you going to sell them out of planning like you did last year?
Chair through to Board Member Sims. Yes, we'll go ahead.
And that's good because we found that when we start, we're finding checks in the bottom of drawers that are 1.5 years old when we let other people do it. And it'll be nice that you can do that. And I'll probably give you some ornaments of the depot and the Capitol that you can peddle also. The exciting thing was, is I met with the governor and his wife about doing their ornament, which is their last year in office. So they want to give everybody something to do. So just part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the flag in the background, the Wyoming flag. Then I'm going to have the Capitol in the front. And then I'm going to have him and her in the front waving goodbye from the steps. And then while we were doing this, their chocolate labs ran by. They run wild at the governor's mansion. So they get to be in the ornament too, the 2 chocolate labs, and they're thrilled with that. I guess I haven't seen the total of what I'm doing with that finished yet. but it's really getting too busy. They wanted her seal on it for Hunger Initiative. They called me yesterday and wanted the boot on there that they're putting in the cowboy boot with the Hunger Initiative in it. He wants his seal in there. And it hardly leaves me any room to put my little hidden stuff in, but it's going to be exciting, and we're going to generate some money from that one. And of course, I'm giving that all to you guys too. So that's all I've got.
When,
I have a picture of this year's if you want to look at it. I sent it to a few of you. But
yeah, this airport thing's also an opportunity for us to try and get rid of some of those airport fountain. We had a bunch of those left over that we found, that Kathy found at her place. So with it being right by the airport there, hopefully we can get rid of some of those.
Yeah. And Gary, we did receive an invoice for your ornaments, and we did process that through our department. So there was an invoice that came through for the depot. Correct.
thank you. That's all I have.
Well, thanks as always, Gary, for all your work on the ornaments. Yeah.
It's fun once it. You guys know how that is. Once you see the end product, it's really fun. It's working up to it.
Chair,
It's fun after all the work is done. Yeah.
Chair, and I have
That's
to remind everyone, I believe this is Board Member Sims's last year doing the ornaments. Okay, so just for succession planning, remember, someone will need to pick his mind, the ornament part. No, but they should pick his mind if they would like to follow suit with that in the connection. So it's people look for this every year. In fact, this actually settles my Christmas list for like about 6 people every
And
year.
That's
So
what I
it's,
talked about earlier. If you aren't selling ornaments, you don't have any money. You have none. So you need to follow up, and I'll be glad to do that. And I'd probably even do it on the side for you if push came to shove. Okay.
Thanks, Gary. Airport fountain planning. Kelly, any updates?
Just a little bit. I don't have a whole lot of new updates, I guess, but kind of as a recap since our last meeting when we approved up to $25,000 for some necessary fountain repairs. So some of the main items we were hoping to get quotes on or tackle with that initial sum of money were first to replace the plumbing that's causing the city issues and clogging the filter and fried their pump and all of that last year. I did talk with Jason Sanchez. He said he went out for multiple plumbing quotes on that, and he has gotten some feedback. One of the plumbers he's talking to had a good suggestion. It sounded like to replace that with copper piping and stainless steel nozzles that they think will hold up better long term. Second, we wanted to remove some of the failing grout and the missing grout and just replace that around the base of the exterior of the fountain where there might be some stormwater seeping in. So I have a message into one of the masons here locally, as well as trying to clarify with Pacific Coast Conservation what the requirements are for that, because they had noted in the report it needs to be conservation grade grout. And I can't remember when they were here. I think Lucinda mentioned something about it might even be restricted to certain like conservation specialists that can order the material. So I'm trying to clarify with them what we would need to do specifically if we're going to bring a local mason to do that. We talked about potentially getting a fountain or a water feature specialist to look at it just to verify the waterproofing is intact, and because there's some visible cracking and stuff in the basins. So haven't reached anyone on that yet, but I do have a message into Sawyer Waterscaping to see if that's something that they would look at for us. Jason Sanchez also said he would talk to a specialist because one of the other items in the report, I can't remember if I mentioned this previously, was that Pacific Coast Conservation recommended rather than treating the fountain with chlorine, which can be corrosive to the terracotta, it would be better to put it in some sort of UV filtration system. Or if they need to treat it with chemicals, I think she said bromine is less corrosive. So I did mention that to Jason. He said he would discuss with a specialist and see what their thoughts are. Let's see.
And then they had mentioned maybe installing some mesh screens or bags or something at drain locations to prevent, leaves or dirt or whatever is getting in there from clogging the filter. But Jason did say he doesn't think that's the issue. It was more just the corroded plumbing piping that's rusting and going down into their system and clogging that up. So then the last thing was just to replace the broken glass panes at the light at the top of the fountain. Jason said he would work on that as well. So it is helpful. He was willing to tackle several of those items and basically just said if our team would focus on trying to find a mason. And the one that he didn't specifically address was the water feature specialist for waterproofing. So I've at least started reaching out on that one as well to see if we can get a couple people interested and give us their opinions and quotes on any necessary repairs. So Jason did say, I just ran into him a couple days ago. He has been talking to plumbers. He didn't say when expecting to get those quotes, but on the filtration system, he said it would likely be August. Everyone's been super busy with Super Day and Frontier Days and everything leading up to that. So
Thanks, Kelly. So it sounds like stuff is sort of moving forward. And hope it sounds like it was helpful that we sort of approved some money for Jason to make those repairs at the last board meeting. And we're sort of at this point just waiting for those things to sort of get followed through on.
Yes, for sure. He did say that was helpful and will help expedite their process. So once they do get a quote that they're happy with, they can go ahead and get that going as soon as possible. And hopefully, like we had talked about last month, get a plumber on board before the end of the summer and before the end of the good weather. So we can at least address that and hopefully fill the fountain for a short amount of time and see how it functions and how the terracotta repairs fare, I guess, with it being filled at least for some amount of time.
Okay. Is there anything you need from the board on that or any like action we need to take this month to keep things moving forward?
I don't think so, no. Once we have some quotes on those items, as long as it stays within the 25,000, I think we basically were approved last month, right, to make a decision to move forward with those items. If it does exceed or if we have any questions or anything, hopefully by next meeting we would have an update on that.
Cool. Thanks, Kelly. Pump house. Are there any updates from the city on what's going on with the pump house?
Chair, members of the board, we don't have any updates. I'm surprised. There was some information, I believe that was secured, but that has not been shared with us. We've asked for it, so we haven't seen that yet.
But there's information like from
Yeah.
the architects that got in there or what?
Chair, members of the board, it's my understanding that they had a firm that came in and they did they started their structural evaluation of the building and they're working on finalizing the report. I asked to see if that was complete. I don't believe it's been completed yet. I think it's close. We'll let you know as soon as we find out more. What I understand is there's a belief after talking to people in an unofficial capacity that it may not be any different in price to rebuild what's there right now versus the restoration, because instead of having to utilize and find matching materials that are exact or deal with the exact structural elements, they can rebuild and mimic essentially the same way, something that would visually be the same but be structurally different. So that's the unofficial word I've heard, but I won't believe that until I see the final document.
And you're referring to the roof specific.
It's the
Have to
roof.
match the materials on the roof because they'll just be, but hopefully they would at least sort of be trying to get close, right?
Chair,
Like
members
shape
of the board,
roof and everything. Yeah.
Chair, yes, we're watching that. There would be opportunity for salvage of the tiles that are there. The terracotta tiles, I believe, on the roof. Is it terracotta? Or what type?
It's like a tin or some
Oh,
sort
is
of
it
metal.
tin? Is it metal?
Mhm.
Gosh,
It's like a
getting my
tin
buildings
sheet.
confused.
Yeah.
Anyway, there would be opportunity for some salvage of some of those materials and preserving the design. So I don't have too much more of an update on that. But there's a lot of watchdogs on that.
Kelly, did you have a comment?
I do, yeah, have a little bit of an additional update because that initial phase of that project of restoring the roof structure and re-roofing it is out for CMAR proposals right now. And I was at the pre-proposal meeting on site the other day. So they're trying to get a construction manager on board to essentially demo the roof structure and then put new roof trusses on and re-roof it by the end of this year, it sounded like. And then move forward with future phases of restoration and rebuilding the interior.
So that would lead me to think that the report has already been completed. If they're already putting stuff out to bid, right? So is there any way to get that information from what the architects found?
There's a way. I will ask again. And once we get that information, we'll get it your direction. So we've requested a couple of times from different folks, and I don't know if it's getting lost in the shuffle, but we'll see if we can get that.
Any other specific questions or comments from anybody on the pump house? Okay, well, we appreciate you keeping an eye on it and trying to track down that information. Kelly?
I think they did mention while we were there that there's still some investigation going on. So I don't know if, the report is finalized or they're just trying to get a CM on board proactively, I guess, before they finish the design and put it out to get some input on like what the best way is to demo the roof and put it back together. Is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
couldn't go into the building. They said there's ongoing investigation. But
Okay, well, we'll look forward to hearing more information about the pump house. Moving on, design guidelines. Amber has sort of been the one leading this effort, and she's not here tonight. I haven't heard anything recently about the design guidelines. I don't know if anybody else in the committee has. Yeah, but I feel like it's something we need to start moving on again. So maybe I'll reach out to her and see what she has to say. And do you have comment about the design guidelines?
Hi, Sophia Mays, DDA Executive Director. Wanted to let everybody know that Cass Rafa was on this. She's no longer with the DDA. She has handed it back to me, and just any way I can support. I've forwarded Amber a couple of the drafts that we've had, like from the 90s or early 2000s. I don't know how useful they are, but yeah, let me know if you'd like any assistance or support in that effort.
Well, thanks, Sophia. Yeah, I got the email from Cass when she is leaving. But yeah, I think it's I'll reach out to Amber and see if what our next steps should be on this. Watch list items. Does anybody have any comments on any of the watch list items? Okay, we're going to move on to new business. Is there any new business from anybody? Patrick?
I don't even know if I should even bring this up, but maybe Gary and David could speak more clearly to this. We seem to show up sometimes at different events or have tables. Do we have like any like a banner or anything like that, or a nice tablecloth that identifies us as the Historic Preservation Board? Is that something that this board has an appetite for, to kind of maybe draw people in, or at least have a professional image when we're out at different events?
I think there was at one time. I don't know where it disappeared.
And Charles, is that common for a board to do that, or is that like frowned upon? I'm just curious because sometimes just seeing a banner will draw people in, and we have a little bit of money, and I don't suspect it costs a lot to get something that says Cheyenne Historic Preservation Board. And
Chair, through you to Board Member Bustos, two things. Number one, I vaguely recall a banner, and I vaguely recall seeing one around the office. And I just emailed the past planner that was here, Lonnie, to ask him if he recalls a banner. Secondly, if we don't have one, we have a specific line item for public meetings that we can use, which we use for engagement efforts. So I'd be happy to fund that banner from that line item. So we could get that. We could definitely do that. We could also use a tablecloth that we could interchange for different ones because presently we borrow from the DDA. They're so generous. But yes, we can definitely do that. We're in the process of investigating right now. I like that.
So I would suggest we assign that to somebody and get it made.
So you could do it, Charles, and
We can fund it,
like,
yes.
what is those, one of those stand-up things, and then maybe a tablecloth that says, I don't know what the options are. I don't. I mean, I used to do this in my previous job about 30 years ago, and we had a pull up banner and, you know, a nice tablecloth that had our logo on it. And it just, I think it draws people and it makes us look a little more professional.
Chair, through you, it sure beats Crayola and poster board. But no, those are all common items that we can look into. The one thing I needed to understand is what will our design ultimately look like? If we have some ideas of what we want to put on there, we could probably work with a vendor like PBR. They do graphics and design. I don't know if Trophy Creative does that as well. They might.
There's a sign company down on 20th that
In a sign
probably-
company. So, and then other folks in the city have done that. I believe the DDA recently did something like that. Do you have one of those banners, right? I think it came from the 20th Street folks as well. PBR, we just need to double check to make sure we have a good design element. So I don't know if you wanted to have, if anyone feels graphically talented enough to put together a design, it's more than an ornament, but I'm just, Gary has some experience. No, I'm just kidding.
I'd say let's keep it simple. Cheyenne Historic Preservation Board. Make it blue and get it done. And if you'll fund it, I'll go get it made. But I don't think we need to put graphics on it or get all creative or tie it up for another 3 months talking about it. Just give me the go ahead and I'll get it done. And our last one was with Don. We had one, and he had it with my ornaments last time he took.
So Don may possibly still have our last one.
He gave me a box of stuff and it wasn't in.
And that was a banner that would strap under a table, I believe.
On the table.
That's what
laid
it was.
down. Because he's absolutely right. If you're sitting there, you look like two street people walking and sitting down and looking for somebody to talk to. So.
Okay, well, I feel comfortable with Gary, sort of figuring out what the design looks like, and I agree, keep it simple.
And before
$1,000.
Chair, before Gary jumps in on that, I want to double check with our, I hate to double check, but with our PIO, we have some branding, our public information officer, we have some branding standards we're supposed to follow or we get our hands slapped. This comes at a really good time because right now we realized that we were trying to get the branding put together for the planning and development department and a pop-up tent that would go as well. But we ended up postponing that last year because we were waiting for our new branding to come out. And then when it came out, we all forgot that we never ordered it. So when we started setting up for Super Day, we're like, oh crap, we forgot to order this. So I think we can take care of it all, but I think we can go with the simplicity mode that Gary has mentioned. Doesn't need to be anything fancy. So we can do that.
Yeah, this things at August 15th and 16th, if we could get it for this year.
I'd have to double check time. I don't think it'll be that problematic to do.
Cool. Thanks, Charles, for taking care of that for us. Appreciate it. Any other new business? Charles.
Chair, is this the last item on the agenda?
Well, we have old business with David Palacio, and I don't know, is he present?
He's not present. He did end up showing up to the last meeting after the meeting ended, but and I thought he was
came.
going to be here tonight, but yeah, he did come to the last meeting, but it was over. It was when we were cleaning up.
Okay.
But we told him we would have it on today, and we sent him the agenda. And but
Okay. How should we move forward with this?
I'll just have to, I guess, remind him a few times again, and hopefully he comes to the next one.
Okay. And
You
he
can also send a violation notice or something, an update regarding that process to compel him to understand the need to be here and provide the updates.
okay, because are we supposed to be approving something from him, or is he supposed to just be updating us on the process of that project, or what are we what are we waiting on from him?
Chair, members of the board, I believe what was supposed to happen there is he was supposed to provide periodic updates as to the status of the project as part of our approval. And at that point, he's lacking in that. So that would be failure to comply with the conditions of approval. So the last item he had mentioned is he's replaced the chimney, as the attorney would say, in form only, not really in materials if you've seen it, because it's a cinder block chimney. But we'd look for a little bit more of an update from him. So we can escalate that to get the seriousness going.
Yeah, I think we probably should. So,
And the one other item I have is, sorry.
Before we move off of that item, can I ask a question? And again, I don't know if this is appropriate, but we've been messing around with this for a long time. And Charles, there is no time limit, right? I mean, we finally got the bulldozer moved, but I've been on this board for 3.5 years, and with exception of the chimney, I haven't seen a lot of progress. So, I mean, are there any options for us to kind of move this along, or, put any stipulations on? Because we already gave him the approval, right? And we can't go back and retroactively say, hey, man, got to have some kind of progress. Just a question.
Chair, through you, there was a point where the building department and the inspectors there were working with him, and they were going to give him deadlines and timelines of when he needed to get some things completed. But there's been also a lot of changeover in the building department now. And so it's probably something we also need to speak with them about and see if they can get that timeline going again.
And Chair and members of the board, does everyone know what property we're talking about? I know we have a couple new folks.
Yes, because I occasionally get like newbies to Cheyenne wanting to live in the historic district. Well, what's going on with that property? Does somebody just need to buy it and fix it? I'm like, well, that's a story I don't have time for. So I don't, if in this capacity, know kind of formally anything that's gone on, just visually answering for Cheyenne. Like, I don't actually know what's going on with that right now, but I know somebody's trying to keep it and allegedly restore it. So
you will report back to us what the building department says? Because that seems to be a common thread, is when we have a big changeover and things get dropped, and pretty soon it's not an issue again until something catches on fire. So.
Charles, do you want to give like a high level overview for Josephine or some of the other newer board members?
Chair, yes, a high level overview of this item is one day, Lonnie Olson, myself, and Josh went to Cincinnati for a historic preservation conference. And at that conference, we became energized and said, hey, we have a local ordinance district where it requires a board, historic preservation board review for all changes. We were like, let's come back and let's really work on promoting this for the historic district. Well, unbeknown to us while we were gone, the owner of the land, the property, started a renovation without any true building permits other than a small interior remodel, and managed to take out several key walls and support structures for this building. Didn't follow any historic district type of standards or any of the regulations or processes. The only thing he had ever done prior to this was he had come to the preservation board and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a renovation. And the board said, okay, well, work with us to go through the process to make sure you're doing a renovation in compliance with our standards, which really are very broad and open for the Governor's Mansion historic area. It really is. Is the modification of the structure or the construction compatible with the period and time of other structures in the district? It's very, very broad. There's no design guidelines. After the renovation and the remodel started, we red tagged the property, which is a stop work order from the building department, had some inspections with him and worked with him to get it back to a structural soundness level. It was he hired a local engineer, structural or architectural engineer. I believe that was his title. It was a Deacon Maggard, to help identify how they could support the house and get it back up to snuff. So those minimum improvements had been made to stabilize the structure, but since that time, we've had some compliance issues with him changing the scope of work and modifying the exterior of the building in ways that weren't satisfactory to the preservation board. There was a time between his enhancements to the property without permits or that are outside the scope of the permit and his most recent work where he did come to the Historic Preservation Board and he sought approval and was given an approval. I don't have that in front of me today, but one of the elements I understand was that he had to report back as to what updates were going on. I don't know the status of where it is right now. We'll need to check with the building department to see if they have an active building permit still.
Oh, I want to take you back further than that because 6 years ago, I was walking down the street and he was out there pulling a rotten timber out from underneath that house. And that's when I came to you guys and said, what's going on over here? And the building department says we absolutely have no record of him requesting anything. At that time, he had a front end, or what do you call one of those giant tractors? I mean, it's one made to move huge boulders, and he had that there, and that was broken down, and it sat there for 4 years. And but he didn't initially get a permit. We actually contacted him because we were watching what's going on over there. So, and then he came in and asked for permission to get a variance on the front porch that he'd already put on, and we didn't give that to him because it wasn't compatible with the rest of the neighborhood. However, we did make the stipulation that if you keep the front of the building looking like the neighborhood, we'll basically kind of ignore the back of it. And so he responded with that by building a metal shed in the back that was 2 stories high, and we had to put an end to that. So I'll be anxious to see that.
And the biggest issue with this item is that, it has had zoning enforcement through the city attorney's office. Their biggest struggle with enforcement is the bandwidth to push this through the process. And that's where it is right now is in immediate, it's in the middle of an enforcement process. And I do not know that desire to move forward with like a final enforcement action. I have talked with our city attorney now because that too has changed since the initial
Well, on a
enforcement
side
action.
note, his main motivation was to get bedrooms built over there for his children. I'm sure they're all graduated by now.
I do remember doing a tour with him of the structure, and he indicated he was putting in, I believe it was bedrooms for each of his children. I asked him how old they were, and I suggested he cut down the bedrooms because at least 2 of them would be grown adults by the time he was done.
Thanks for that sort of overview of what that process has been like. And yeah, I think if there's a way to let him know that we sort of need to start receiving those updates, I think yeah, that would be good. Okay, other business, the only thing I wanted to mention is that I know this is Josephine's first time being here in person. She was on the call a couple months ago, so she sort of met us virtually, but I don't know if Josephine, you just wanted to introduce yourself to the rest of the board and say hello.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much you guys want to know. My day work is with the Wyoming Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. I'm their policy and systems coordinator. So I love policies and ordinances and all kinds of things that enforce those. And if they're bad, I love to change them. We got to follow them in the meantime, right? So that's my day job. Interestingly, I've been discussing with the coalition about like historic preservation and downtown development and things like that, especially as it relates to housing and modern upgrades that enhance the safety of the community, reducing opportunities to create victims like in parking lots regarding like what lighting looks like. So all stuff they never thought about before. And I sit around and think about for no particular reason. So that's kind of a cool crossover we're looking at right now, how to be useful in those spaces. I've twin toddlers. They've called me 14 times since I've been here because they figured out how to use an iPad. So, but yeah, Cheyenne native, and I'm really excited for this opportunity.
And many of you may remember that Josephine received the Du Bois Award from us last year for her work preserving her house on 22nd,
19th.
Yeah,
and we're
okay.
buying the house next door. So
And you're going to work on
pray for me.
preservation there too. Yeah.
It's a mess.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fabulous. It's huge. It's a giant project.
Well, thank you for joining us and welcome. Charles, did you have something else?
Yes, chair, members of the board. We do have one vacancy still on the preservation board. And we did receive an application, and Holly Martinez, she's the executive assistant to the mayor who manages boards, and you will have talked to her at some time or seek reappointment through her. She had forwarded over an application we received from a person who's interested in serving on the board. They did apply shortly after Josephine had applied, and they actually sent a recent inquiry asking for the status, so that it's more than just a one-off, let me do it. They actually have an interest in it. I'll real quickly just walk through this person for you. The person's name is Stephen Hanlon. I don't know if anyone knows this person. He is a Cheyenne resident, lives up in, I believe it's up in Thomas Heights, up in that area. He describes himself as one born and raised in Cheyenne and a member of the county and state historical societies. He has a long interest in Cheyenne history and particularly in observation of all Cheyenne structures and buildings. He states, I would enjoy participating in discussions about the resolution, potential preservation of history and buildings with local history. I would hope to contribute via discussion, solicitation of expert opinions, and application of my reading on local history, application of my interest in architecture, and application of my woodworking knowledge, and application of my engineering background. That's a lot of, that's it. Overall, he states he's continuously looking for opportunities to participate as a member of the Cheyenne Board or Council and assist the community, which has been integral to his development. He feels strongly that items and buildings with attached stories of our history should be preserved if possible, but through a rigorous process, providing understanding of inputs, pros, cons, costs, and fund sources. He's considered applying to this board in the past, but felt at those times he was unable to commit the time. Now he believes he has the time and he still has continued interest. He looks forward to this opportunity with the board. He has some other volunteer experience, one being the Technology and Advisory Council for the city. That was, I believe Mayor Ord started that. I'm trying to have a smart cities initiative. I can't comment on how that initiative ended up. I mean, there's a lot of, it was interesting because that was about bringing broadband, but it seems like the private sector, they came and stepped in and provided that broadband. So that's pretty interesting. He is a UW Venture Mentor Service, and he's also volunteered with the El Bogan 50K mentoring, whatever that is. He has a career in medical product development, Director of the University of Wyoming Bioscience Initiative Hub, pitch contest judge and mentor, I-Corp program faculty lead and instructor, would work with a fully equipped shop. Maybe you could do wooden ornaments. Anyway, he has a resume here. I guess really, I mean, we can go ahead and get this person on the agenda for appointment at an upcoming council meeting, and then he could join us at the August meeting. Is this the person that you all would like to see on the board? I can send you out the resume and stuff. Just looking for feedback, as if you feel that's good.
What do you all think based off of what Charles just read to us? Any comments, thoughts? Does anybody know him?
And typically we don't read this. We didn't do this for you, Josephine. But this is a person that had come in. We just wanted to run it by the board because I believe per the bylaws, we're actually supposed to run some of the candidates through the board. Are we? No, I thought, no, that's a different board. Sorry, that's
Years
that's a
ago,
different one.
the board would review
Would
all
make a
the applicants
recommendation.
and make a recommendation to the mayor.
So we just wanted to have some more participation with the board on appointees. I personally think they seem like an okay fit, but I just was sharing this with you all if you all saw any problems or.
Sounds like a great candidate, and we could always use an extra person on the board.
Yeah,
Like-
but
I heard a lot of mentorship in there, which tells me you might be patient with things not moving quickly, like a 6-year project with a bold. So not somebody impatient and tempestuous with projects might be helpful.
Charles, do you need a resolution from the board or a motion or anything like that?
Chairman of the board, no, I'm just looking for just any type of, if there's anyone against it or for it, I'll just relay to the mayor what the general consensus is. So you'll need a motion or anything.
I think the fact that he's following up on it is a good sign too. So
That's what I thought was impressive as well. No red flags, no bulldozers in front yards.
okay, any other business from anybody? We're here at the end. Okay, then with that, we'll adjourn the meeting.